World Rugby released this press release saying there were going to be some changes to law, and then that's all we heard from them, really, the strict description of how the law was going to change, and then it was left to you referees to implement. Now, you must have felt under an enormous amount of pressure going into this weekend, A, to get it right, and also that you didn't want too many incidents that the back pages were talking about rather than the rugby. Yeah,
look, first of all, Ben, looking at those hits, that's what rugby is about. That's why we, as referees, as fans, we love going to watch a game. We love seeing incidents like that. And, you know, for us, not really any pressure because nothing's changed. You know, we came in at pre-season, we spoke with you and we talked about players protecting players, you know, who they're playing against. So if you're going to kick for a ball, you don't kick him in the head on the way through. And we said we'd red card that. We also said if you're going to play the man in the air and he comes down dangerously, we're going to red card that player as well because you've got to protect that man in the air. And then November, all the international referees got together and we said, look, we've got to make sure not are we only protecting players in the air, but on the floor, but also in that tackle situation. So in November, we said, right, let's go out and let's make sure we protect that players from those really dangerous high shots. What we're not trying to get rid of is those hits. We're not getting rid of, you know, tackles which are just hard. And an accidental high tackle was a high tackle last year, it is this year. It was just an accident, but it's just an accident now. But they were both high tackles, so nothing's changed.
It's good to see. Maybe just the sanctions have got a bit tougher, but the laws have really stayed the same. We're going to have a look at a couple of the clips from this weekend that maybe were borderline. I don't think a penalty was given on this one, but it's Christian Wade running across the field on Charlie Thacker. It's that old seatbelt challenge, wrapping your arm over the top of the shoulder of the man. What are your thoughts there?
Look, as you know, Ben, we all get together as a Premiership referees on a Monday. We have a look at clips of that. Look, that's clearly a penalty. You know, he's going over the top and he's made contact with the head. But everyone who watched that game, everyone who's seen that now doesn't think that's a yellow card. We've got to have a bit of common sense as referees. We've got to understand what players are trying to do. He's got that slightly wrong. He's made a bit of contact. There's not a lot of force. Penalty should have been given. It wasn't, but nothing more.
And then the next one we're going to look at is a tight head on a fly half. A tight head's always going to want to put a shot on him, but he just gets stepped on the inside, John Welsh, on George Ford there.
Yeah, look, and he almost just, you know, a little bit of contact on the shoulder, up to the face, you know, almost tickles him across the face. As you said, he's been stepped. There's nothing more than a penalty in that, which Greg gave on the day. No one expects that to be a yellow card. No one's going to be given a yellow card.
It's almost that reaction, isn't it? I've used the example that sometimes when you drop something at home and it's a bit heavy, for some reason you stick your foot out to try and catch it. You think, why on earth did I do that? It's that instant reaction. As long as there's no malice in it, you're happy for that to play on.
The instant reaction, not the big swinging arm which smacks someone straight in the head.
We're going to get to the most famous example of the weekend, the big one everyone's talking about, Jeff Parling. Brad Barrett goes in first, Barrington next. It's a horrific-looking challenge. Obviously, Parling was knocked out, probably by Barrett originally. Jeff Parling is starting to go down towards the ground. Let's hear what the ref said.
Direct to the head, at force. That leaves me with a little option. This guy is sent from the field to play. It's a red card. Direct contact with the shoulder to the head of the player on the floor. That's a red card. I'm sorry.
Now, I felt so sorry for Ian Tempest in this game. He's a young referee. This is a out of the ordinary incident, let's be fair. I thought his description, whether people agree with what he got right, was absolutely spot on. But he must have been thinking, I don't want to send two players off at once, otherwise we're going to have fans that have paid a lot of money. Maybe I should deal with it, let the authorities deal with one of them. At least I've punished Saracens in some respect.
Look, I think there's a couple of things, and you've touched upon one of them. I've been refereeing in a Premiership since 2003. I haven't seen anything like that before. And we've discussed this before. You've been involved in a game for years and years and years, Ben. You've not seen anything like that. So that's unique. Ian then has a few moments to get all the information and make what is a really good decision at the time. You know, of course, it's then in hindsight, he can make a better decision. You know, I've heard people saying, well, one's a high tackle and the other one's a high tackle, so they're two red cards. But you've got to look at it holistically. You know, was the falling player caused by Barrett? Was Barrington's kind of angle changed because of the falling player? Did he slip into it? There's so much to take into consideration. And Ian took all of that into consideration and made a decision, the best decision he could at the time. And we've discussed it. You know, you thought Barrington was the worst offender. You know, Austin on the day thought that it was Barrett. There are those grey areas. I think the learning for us as referees is that if that happens again on the weekend, and let's hope it doesn't, you know, because we want to make sure players are safe. If that happens on the weekend, we're probably going to see 2 cards now. I'm not saying 2 red cards, but we had 2 incidences where we had illegal challenges. Now, I know there was a hearing last night, and we know what the result of that was. But we then had the opportunity of hearing from the player, hearing from the coach, probably hearing from an expert, and I'm pretty certain there was a very smart QC who was representing them.
Absolutely. So the hearing found that actually Barrett's was a worse offence in their mind, because that's a panel that have opinions as well.
Exactly.
And that Barrington was only reacting to a falling player. And I guess from Ian Tempest's point of view as well, it's such big news the first weekend. Red cards, 2 red cards in 1 incident, and suddenly we're all saying, see, we told you it's going to ruin our game. So I think he did really well. Now, we're going to have a look at one from a few weeks ago and see, would this have been a penalty? This is Ashton, hit by Brady, going for a tackle. It's an accidental head clash, but World Rugby have used the word accident in their ruling.
Yeah, and what we're talking about with accidents are accidental high tackles. There is nothing high about that challenge. That is not foul play. That is play on. Though JP does really well here to stop the game and say, hold on, we've got an injured player. So he might stop the game, but no one's going to penalise that, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my thought as well. And you know, we don't want to see that. And you say either foul play, not foul play. If it's not foul play, you don't even consult the rest of the sanctions in terms of how physical it is. Exactly. Right, let's have a look at Randall Morrison. You see break by Marlon Yard, covering player. What's your thoughts there?
So you asked about, foul play, and then what are we considering? We've got pace, we've got force, we've got direct contact to the head, which stops the attack. That is a red card. He was given a red card on a day, and I'd imagine if we see that every single week, whether that was 2017 or 2007, that's a red card.
Red card. Totally agree with you. Now, this one was a yellow card in the game between Saints and Leicester. Luther Burrell coming across. How does that differ?
Yeah, so you can see just from watching it, it's not as high in speed, it's not as much force. The player hits a shoulder and then goes up onto the head. So that's the ones where no one expects that as a red card. Using a bit of common sense, JP rightfully puts him in the bin for 10 minutes and says, get those tackles a bit lower. And remember, this is aimed at. It's just to lowering the tackle a little bit. So a nice decision there, and that's what we'll see.
I've got to say, Craig, to have a referee come in, explain those, because some of them are wrong, some of them are right, but it makes it so much better for the viewers of rugby that they know how it's being. You're empowering them to know what's going on. So often we just get, this is the change to the laws, live with it. So thank you, Wayne.
It's great because players say they love being ref by Wayne, because you talk to them, you talk to us as well as fans, as Ben said. Thank you very much. A special round of applause for Wayne, please. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.